Cheshire's Silk 106.9.
National Pet Month is throughout April, and I'm talking to Francis. Hello, Francis. How are you?
Hi, very well, thank you.
So explain what you do and where you're from, first of all, before we get into this.
Right, at the moment, I'm a dog trainer working from Farndon, which is obviously in South Cheshire. I am originally from London, where I started. I was in the police there, and I was an ex-dog handler. So coming up here, once I moved here, I started doing dog training. That was about 14, 15 years ago, and it's just grown since then.
Fantastic. So I take it you love dogs in the first place then, don't you?
Oh, yes. That's one of the reasons when I joined the police is that I joined and I wanted to be a dog handler. So it was an ambition when I actually became a dog handler.
See, those dogs, they are normally German Shepherds, is that right? Or Alsatians of some sort, is that right?
Yeah, yes. In my day, definitely nearly always German Shepherds. But of course, now they've progressed because the role of the dog has changed so much. So they're used for drugs, firearms, bodies, etc. And German Shepherds aren't the best dogs for that because people, when they see dogs, they perspire if they are fearful of them. So they use friendly dogs so that the person doesn't perspire, so that the drugs and things like that can be smelled easily.
Wow. You see, I've watched the film. I mean, is it anything like, do you ever see the film K9 with James Belushi?
Yes, I did. Yeah, of course.
Is it not like that then?
No, not at all. But the roles of the dogs, what the dogs do, is very similar.
Because that dog there named Jerry Lee had a mind of its own, and it was fantastic. The character shouted at the dog as if it was a child. You know?
Well, yeah, each of the dogs has its own character, and when you're training with them, you learn what your dog's like before you actually start the work. Some are very aggressive, some are very intelligent, some are very independent, and you just work with the dog.
Fabulous. So with it being National Pet Month this month in April, I just wanted to get you on this interview to talk about training dogs specifically, because dogs are the most common pets in the UK. Would you agree with that?
Oh, without doubt. Yes. And especially now, unfortunately, during lockdown, so many people have got dogs and it's causing me problems and other dog trainer problems.
Well, we'll get onto that in a second and how it's causing problems for you. But let me give you a little story. I had a little white terrier thing, long hair it had. I think they called the West Island White Terrier. Is that right? The full name for it? Yeah.
Yep.
And it was a bit of a nutcase. And I had this, I'm going back to like 1995 or something. And the dog trainer I had back then said to me, he says, "Oh, you can't train this dog. This dog is a schizophrenic dog." Was that just the lack of knowledge from the trainer, or was it just what I was doing with the dog at 15 years old?
Right. I'm really sorry, but it was you. 100%. All right. As a dog trainer, I very, very rarely train a dog. I train the owners. And it's how the owners treat the dog is how the dog becomes in 99.9 of all cases. So I do apologize, but it was you.
Oh, wow. So, okay, it's one of the most common things that people are doing wrong with their pets. I mean, we did a thing the other day on the radio. Do you let your dog or your pets sleep in bed with you? Not a chance. Not when we had a border collie. No way.
The biggest thing people do wrong with their dogs is they think their dogs are human. And I think that is where the biggest problem is. People look at dogs and they think they've got dog brains. If you have a partner of an opposite sex to you, you will know that the way you interact with each other is really, really different. Your partner, if it's an opposite sex, will think differently to you. Now, we're humans, and now we try to think that dogs can think like us, which is bizarre. Dogs don't think like us. They think like dogs. And if we treat them as dogs, oh my goodness, dogs love it. They are so happy.
But some of them are so intelligent. I've seen videos of them looking outside on a lead, and they sit there and it's snowing and they go, "I'm not going out there." It's too
that's common sense. Yeah, they've gone out, they've got cold in the past and they think, I don't want to get cold again. It's as simple as that. Dogs live in what's called the now. Whatever just happened to them influences what happens next. And we use that as an aid to training. So if you go to an example of that is if you're out walking with your dog and you let it run around and run around, then you call it to you, you put it on the lead and take it home, no problems. Next day, you do the same thing. You call it to you, put it on the lead, go home. Third day, the dog thinks, hang on, I'm not going to come to you because you're going to put me on the lead and take me home. So what we do, we put a blocker in. So when we call the dog, we play with it for 10, 15 seconds, then we put it on the lead. And because dogs are rather silly, they remember the come, play, but they don't realize add that to the going home. So it's these little errors that people do that make the training difficult for themselves.
So in essence, what you're saying is trick the dog to get him to do what you want them to do at that time.
Well, no, use the dog psychology to actually aid your training.
Wow. That is really interesting. So what if you've got, okay, seriously though, now, let's say you've got a dog that is a little bit angry or violent or aggressive. How do you calm a dog down? How do you take that out of the dog's actual personality?
If a dog is aggressive, it's because something's happened to it in the past. If it's your own dog and you've had it since a pup, we can find that out. When you get a rescue dog, that's where I have big problems because we don't know what the triggers are. So what we have to do, we have to watch the dog. We have to see what it's reacting to, how it's reacting. Then from that, it gives us clues on why it's reacting. Then we can go back and we can put different methods of slowing the dog down so it doesn't realize that thing is dangerous. One of the biggest problems of humans is that when we go to a dog, we lean over it to stroke it. That's quite scary for a dog. Whereas if you stand upright, let the dog come to you, that dog will act differently. So an aggressive dog, quite often, I will go to them and just stand there quietly. Just stand in front of it quietly. Let the person bring the dog to me really quietly. I won't look at it. I'll look away, even turn my back on it and just stand there and let it smell me. Because maybe in the past, someone's glared at it, leant over it and hit it. So we work on lots of different formulas to find out what's positive for that dog on that occasion in that situation. So they're all different. It's really difficult, but with a bit of experience and a lot of help by the owner, you usually get the good result.
I mean, I'm just throwing a few questions at you because in the interest of balance a little bit, because some dog, I mean, it's natural for if you see a dog bounding over to you, growling and barking, you are gonna panic. You are gonna either run, you're gonna throw something at the dog to stop it. It's natural for humans to do this.
Oh yeah, the running is the worst thing you can do because then you become prey. The best thing is just to stand and look at the dog very quietly, just looking at the dog. A very, very good thing, if you, I tell people who are very nervous of dogs to carry an umbrella of all things. Because if a dog is running at them and they become really scared, to open an umbrella suddenly in front of a dog will make 99.9% of all dogs back off and go away from you. And it gives you cover. And that's an easy, simple thing to do if you've got someone who's really, really got a phobia about dogs until they can train them. Because one of the things I do at my training classes, I let anyone come along free of charge and they come along and we get them over their phobias of dogs. Because that's so important because it's just a big step for their lives. And we do that over a course of weeks. We start them off with the puppies so they get used to them. Then we move them on to the other dogs. And in the end, they're running around with the German Shepherds and the Labradors.
This is a true story as well. My daughter is 3 years old. There's a Rottweiler that lives up the street. Now, this Rottweiler is, I've got to say, knocking on a bit and not in the best of health. It's a big unit, right?
Yeah.
And this Rottweiler will walk past the car on the school run, and it'll come bound over to me on the garden and sniff around. I give the Rottweiler a smooch and it's fine. It nuzzles into me. But my daughter used to love the Rottweiler 6 months ago. All of a sudden, she's running off. She's terrified.
Yeah.
I don't know. Where did that come from? Like that. This dog has never gone for my daughter at all.
Usually we find when we actually sit down and you listen to the child, it's stories. someone's told them a story, they've seen something, one of their friends, they've seen something on television. It's usually that. So what we have to do with the child is to take them away from that big dog, make sure they get very, very friendly with the little dogs. And then when they actually approach the big dog again, we don't do head to head. They come in at the side, nice and quietly, stroking the dog, giving it treats, things like this. It's to encourage the child, find out what the problem was, and then try to work with the child to come forward again.
Is it true that dogs know exactly everything you say to them, even if you don't use the usual commands like sit, roll over, friends, handshake, or whatever it is you use? Even if you're talking to them like a human being, they understand what you're trying to say to them.
No.
Okay.
Dogs do not. Dogs do not understand what you're saying to them. They live in a what they call white noise. It's noise all around them. So, but they pick up on certain sounds, because they're not words to them. They're just sounds. That sound is they will react to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What they usually pick up a lot quicker is body language. You know, when someone comes home and the dog's done something wrong, and the person says, oh, the dog knows it's done wrong because it cowered. No, it doesn't know it's done wrong, but it knows your body language. It's like if you go home and your partner's at home, you look at your partner as you open the front door, and you know your partner's in a bad mood. They've had a really bad day. They're going to really be angry. They've not said anything. They've not done anything. But just by looking at them in that split second, you can see that. Well, dogs live by body language, so they're 1,000 times better than we are.
This is really, really interesting. You know what? I could talk to you all day, but unfortunately we haven't got all day. But Francis, thank you so much for your time. And it's really interesting. If people want to know more about what you do for your dog training, and also any more advice on what they can do with maybe a dog that they can't control themselves, where can they go?
Yeah, my website's the easiest. And because I'm incredibly arrogant and no one else had the site, it's called the Cheshire Dog Trainer.co.uk. And by going on there, you'll find me, and then you can send me messages and I can go from there. All advice on the phone is free. And as I say, I do my dog training in the Farndon area. So hopefully, if anyone's interested, please get in touch with the Cheshire Dog Trainer.
Fantastic. Now, I just wanted to touch on what you said a little bit earlier on. This lockdown pandemic has been causing you problems as a dog trainer then.
Oh, yes. What's happened is we've got lots and lots and lots of puppies out there who haven't been socialized because they couldn't get out. Their owners went out at different times. They're not meeting dogs, and that's causing lots of problems. And another huge problem is the dogs are in the home with the person all the time. So when those people go back to work, we're going to have massive problems because those dogs are going to feel as if they've been left. And they might start causing damage to the house with stress and things like this. So we're trying to put packages in place now so that people leave their dogs in the house, go away from them. We've got people working with their dogs 24/7. And when they go back to work, that dog is going to be stressed unless we can put measures in now to try to prevent it.
That's a great idea. Again, people can find you on the internet. Just look for the Cheshire Dog Trainer. Is that right?
That's right. Thank you very much.
Francis, thank you very much for your time, and stay safe and all that kind of stuff. And
thank you very much.
Your station, Cheshire Silk 106.9.